Welcome to the More to Know podcast. My name is Kimberly Hawes. I am joined today by Glenn Phillips. He is the CEO and lead economic analyst at Lake Homes Realty and Beach Homes Realty. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, super appreciate the opportunity to visit.
Yes, well, Glenn, tell us a little bit about yourself for people who haven't had the opportunity to meet you yet.
I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, all the way down to as a college kid trying to sell worms to fishermen. But most of my career was in engineering, computer engineering, building data systems. And then we were approached in 2012 about what was going to be sort of a portal for lake real estate. And it was a flawed model. We spent 15 months trying to figure out how to make another brokerage. The question I had at the time was, what kind of idiot starts a brokerage? There are too many of them. And so we formed that together and we've gotten some traction. It's pretty exciting. Nobody's done niche on scale.
Right. So when you talk about doing niche on scale, you're talking about really attacking a very small market, but doing it very well and doing it up to the highest standards. What are some of the things that your group offers that you think allow you to operate those very high standards?
So one of the things we wanted to make the experience of more alignment between the agent and everybody says, oh, we serve the customer. But if a bunch of real estate agents go from one brokerage to another, it really doesn't change the customer's experience. Not really. And so we felt we could change this alignment. So by using and aggregating data from across the country and limiting it to specific types of property, it makes a totally different experience trying to find a lake home if you're looking in multiple states. And one thing that's unique about our website, most websites in real estate start with the premise of where do you want to look? Now, what do you want? And we do that. But there's a different thing in discretionary property, beach, lake, mountain. They know what they want. They may not know where. I've got grandkids that are in Atlanta and Dallas, and we've been in Connecticut, and we want to retire to a lake home, and we don't even know what the lakes are called. So you can say what's within 100 miles, and it'll aggregate everything from all those lakes in one spot. So it's a better experience right from the web part. And then when they are ready to talk to a human, those agents on our website are the local experts. We don't take rookie agents. So these are seasoned experts about the nuance of that niche. And they also serve people who are selling a home. If you're selling a home in some market, the local agents there can advertise it and put it on portals, but they're not necessarily going to get the exposure. We can give that extra listing opportunity for somebody. If I'm selling a home at a lake in Tennessee, most agents would struggle to advertise that to buyers coming from California, but we
Right.
don't.
Right. Because you have that national audience already built into your formula, right?
Right. Our website is during COVID, we had 7 to 8 million people using our website. It could have been called get the heck out of cityhomes.com for the lake website. Um, It'll be about 4 million, but they're very specific. Our engagement's very, you're either kind of looking for that type of property or you're not. You're looking for a beach property or you're not. You're looking for a lake home. So they self-select, which means we're not going to have the volume that a Zillow portal would have, but that's okay. That's just as well. In fact, means that once somebody comes through, they're much more serious person for our agents to be able to serve them. They know, okay, this person's maybe been using the website for 3 years. They've been looking that long because they're also not under a time constraint. And so we, trained our agents. They already knew this in their markets. You need to have a hospitality mentality of we're going to be concierge and we're going to help them. And they may not even buy at this lake, but we're going to serve them over a long period of time. Not you called or you buying in 90 days so your kids can get in school. So some of our agents have told me stories of they've helped someone find a lake home and it took them 8 years.
Well, it's understandable. Like you said, Glenn, it's not like these people are under any pressure to
Yeah.
start in a new school year. They may be a retirement age, as you mentioned, or it's just simply a discretionary property, someplace
Yeah.
they'd love to be able to bring the kids during the summer months so they can get out of the city and really enjoy that lake or that beach life. With that being said, though, there are some nuances to lake or beach life that probably only a local realtor can help a person with. Tell us about some of the things that maybe a realtor can look for in a beach or a lake community that the average buyer wouldn't think of?
It's not that the average buyer won't think of, an agent who doesn't work in that market may not think about it. And it can vary on even different areas of the same lake. So some things would be, are there permits required to have a dock or pier? Are there any more of them? Somebody could buy a lake home that has no pier, call up and say, hey, I want to get a pier built. And they, do you have a permit? Well, no, where do I get one? Well, they're issued by the Corps of Engineer, but they won't have any for a few years. And suddenly you bought a lake home and you think, but can't I put a pier out there? Seasonal water, which is not always a bad thing, but many of these lakes will go down for part of the season and be lowered and then come back, and others don't. Some are year-round water. Uh, that has to do with things that could be surprising about the traffic on the lake. Which places have a lot of boat traffic? And you say, well, it's nice to see the boats, but if you've got small kids and you want to get out and float on floats near your house, it's very turbulent. And you actually have to buy a lift to get your boat out of the water, or it'll be beaten to death on the pier. So these are things that it also has to do with distances. We have a demographic that many of these folks that buy tend to be 50s and up. People who sell tend to be 60s and up. It's a demographic that is concerned about, in the event something happened, what's the travel time to an emergency room? Because it may be in a rural environment. And in that, travel time can vary greatly based on which side of the lake you're on. Because sometimes you can see across a lake, and by boat, you can be over there in just like that. But if you go by car, it might be a 45-minute journey.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can think of a number of examples of lakes that I've been on where that would be a key issue. And not just if you're of a certain age, if you're of any age, if an accident happens, you want to be in close proximity to emergency services. And that's something I think a lot of people look out for their family. What are some of the things that come up when people are talking about beach properties? I know commonly people think about like erosion and climate change and sea level change, but I'm sure there's much more to it than that.
And one of the things that's surprising, and I've talked to a number of people in the media who bring up the water level and sea and change, and what we really find is today's buyer isn't concerned with it for the most part, or they wouldn't even be thinking about buying. So they don't really ask about, well, when is this going to be underwater? I have a concept that I've toyed with about. I believe we are all think we're temporarily immortal. We know we'll die, but not right now, which is probably why a lot of people do stupid things. But I also think they think this about water levels. Oh, yeah, Florida may flood, but not at any time I've got to be concerned with. And so they may not ask about that, but they also don't always know what they need to ask about, that particularly even if their agent isn't seasoned at the beach. Are there access questions? Is this a public beach? Is it a private beach? Is it part of a condo association? Is it a club? If you're buying just off the beach, which can be a better price point, how can I get to the beach? Are your pets allowed on the beach? So a lot of beaches don't allow dogs on the beach, and it has to do with pretty much for hygiene type things. But if you've never done it, or you've just gone to one beach and had one experience, it doesn't always translate to the next beach.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you also have some pretty exciting news coming out. I know that Mountain Homes Realty was just announced by your group.
Yes.
I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about that and what you're looking forward to serving with clients in the mountain regions.
So no one defining a lake or beach home is pretty easy because of the shoreline. It's waterfront, water view, water access, water lifestyle. Beach was one though where we saw a lot of demand. A lot of lakes are in areas with terrain because it makes it a lot easier to put in a dam and create a lake. And so we could see a lot of our agents said, we're really selling mountain homes near the lake. And so we thought that was our next untapped market. Now, the fun part of this is we're still working out what is a mountain home, and that varies across the country. And we're going to get a lot of it wrong. We're still populating the data. We've got data from more than 20 states, and we're still deciding how do we package it. People tend to know a beach name or a city of the beach, and they tend to know a lake name, but people may be around the mountains and not even know the name of the mountain, or it's a lifestyle. So our criteria is that it is on elevation or has a can look out over that view. It's on an elevated, or it's in a community who's is financially benefited from the mountain. So I was in Boulder for a meeting and stay in a hotel, and they charge more for rooms that could see the mountain. Well, that's mountain influence to us. And I think some people say they if you live in an area that's got some of that lifestyle, you may not even think about it being that way. If you I was in we were in Montana in Whitefish, and it's flat in the valley there. But the Airbnb we stayed at had lockers for mountain bikes and skis. That is a mountain home because it's a mountain lifestyle home. So we're gonna embrace both. It'll be a little less clear as it would be for beach and for the lakes, but we're pretty excited because we can have some overlap, and many of our agents can actually serve both client bases.
Now, is there any like price point associated with these properties that, even though you may be located on a lake, they wouldn't be a good fit for you guys?
No, our feeling is we can serve of all value, and that it can be even as a real estate brokerage. We've always worked with our agents to not be dismissive of what something costs. Because many times people will be in this life cycle, or they're helping, it's a younger family maybe buying something, and they're getting help from parents. And then the parents suddenly want to be around the grandkids, and they drop in and buy at a very expensive price point not too far away. It can also be that we're in this for the long haul. So somebody who buys one in a few years may get a bigger one, may get a bigger one. So we sell lots all the way up to multi-million-dollar properties.
All right, so very open then, from an open piece of land that is completely undeveloped up until, like you said, multi-million dollar homes.
Yes.
All
And
right.
you think, there may be some people think, well, can the same agent deal with luxury and a lot? A seasoned person who knows their market absolutely can serve, and particularly if they are trained and are thinking about this from a hospitality standpoint, not just a financial services and advisory role.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that probably these people are a lot better well versed than people might imagine them to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk a little bit in the time that we have as far as what you're seeing when it comes to like secondary homes and the market in general. Like you said at the beginning of this conversation, during COVID, everybody wanted to get out of the
Yeah.
city. There was a huge demand for not just moving to another location that's a little bit more remote, but having a second home in a place that's a little bit more remote. Has that changed at all? And if it has, how has it changed since the COVID period?
So we have some mirrors to primary residential real estate. If you look at all of residential real estate across the country last year, 2024 was the worst year in 29 years for the number of transactions. People were very optimistic this year would be better, but we've started out even worse. And we're a little insulated. Over half our deals are cash, and people can buy what they want. What we've seen, though, the first half of this year in the discretionary part, there are deals happening, but it's a very unusual shift of why they're not happening. And that is that the buyers have become, even if they have cash, they are much more prudent than the frenzy of I've got to have it during COVID. And yet the sellers who are ready to sell have comps from the last 3 years that support a higher price point than the market will pay. So I was talking to one of our brokers out in Texas. He said before COVID, we averaged about 600 lake listings in our area. COVID drained that down to about the average of 200. And some of those have reasons they don't sell, drastically overpriced, poor condition. He said,
Mhm.
now we have over 1,000. And the reason is, and he agreed, is these prices are being asked that people just are not going to pay. They don't have to pay. They can just go shrug and go, I'll wait. We also see, my opinion is, the tariff oscillation has made the stock market oscillate. The stock market hates uncertainty. And so a lot of people with even financial means, mortgage rates are really not a concern to our demographic for the most part, but they are concerned about their portfolio. And so if their portfolio is oscillating around, their idea is, this is probably going to smooth out. I would hate to buy something right now and then realize we've got some odd inflation or recession that's going to affect the business I own or where I work. We can give it a few months, and then I'll feel better about it. So a confused mind says no. What we're already seeing is the tariffs oscillation is starting to slow down and the stock market's starting to build in for it. And so the stock market's settling in, and we already in the last 2 months have seen some deal flow start to pick up. It's not going to be a boom. It's not going to be a crash. People can't expect a deal. And in the markets we serve, you're not going to get a lot of foreclosures, even if we had a crash, because you can't foreclose on cash-owned houses, you know.
No, absolutely. And I'm hopeful, and I'm sure many of our readers and listeners are hopeful that things will start to even out as we, start to think about wrapping up 2025 and going into 2026. But as you mentioned, it is a little bit of a tough market. What are you advising realtors and other people in the industry to do from your perspective in order to get ahead when it is a little slower?
So on the listing side, we're telling our agents, you've got to be very real and not just take a listing and then haggle down later. You're going to devalue that property, and it's agonizing for everybody. Now, not every seller's ready to hear this conversation, but our data has shown that in our demographics, things that are priced right sell in that 30 to 60 day period max. And then after that, in the next 45-day period, they drop. The ones that sell drop about 8%, 5 to 10%. And then they plateau at that price point. So we tell people, if you're overpriced and if you're not seeing people show and ask about your house, or you're not getting offers, you're probably more than 10% overpriced. That's hard news. The question is, when do you want to take that medicine? You can do it now, or you can wait 6 or 9 months. But what is that doing to your life? On the buy side, we just tell what we've said all along. Be ready to move quick, because something that is priced appropriately will have demand and will sell quickly. So don't feel like, oh, it's isolated, I can take my time and think about it. Somebody else will buy it. There is strong demand. Our website's busy, but they're not necessarily buying until it's priced right. And so the price being correct is very much an indicator of what the market's doing. And that is, there's strong demand, but they're not foolish. They're more informed than any time in human history. And you're not going to fake them out, Mr. Seller.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of information to offer people. What's the website people should go to if they're interested in finding out more?
Sure. Lakehomes.com, which also, if you dig around, we have a quarterly lake market report that's free that talks about the markets all over the country. Beach-homes.com. And our newest is mountainhomesrealty.com. And between those, there's about 350,000 properties that are for sale, and we update that every day, all day.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Glenn. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.